and gentlemen, please welcome.
And you know what time it is. Every Tuesday at 8, another exciting edition of the MCW Cast. I'm Legacy, MCW MC Larry Legend.
I'm MCW promoter Dan McDevitt.
And I'm Tara. Welcome to the MCW Cast.
I like how Danny Mays refers to you as the heart of MCW. In that one ad that we have, that one bumper, that's what he refers to you as.
That's
and I
sweet.
love that. I think that that's an appropriate moniker for you after all these years.
Oh, thank you.
Going on 21.
21 this month. Yep, absolutely.
My
August
goodness.
2000 was when I walked through the door of Bone Breakers.
The very
Yeah,
hot
kinda-
door. And Bone Breakers in August, I can imagine.
I know.
You know?
Walked in going, what am I doing?
Yeah. Well, here we are all these years later. Thanks again. Shout out to all of our weekly listeners. You know, the MCW Cast has really just taken off, and it's really something that people look forward to every Tuesday hearing from us.
Yeah, really on all the podcast platforms listenership is really going up and up. So it's good. It's pretty neat to see, we're just a independent promotion in Maryland, but we got listeners in South Africa and England and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Internationally known. Yeah. So thank you
And
to all
you
of them.
too can check it out on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, and Castbox, along with you can watch it on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
And when you watch on Facebook, we like to see those hearts. You know, when you're watching along on Tuesday and I see you, Greg Papalukas, I see you, Charles Donnie, Dr. D, I see you too. We like to see those hearts and those, thumbs up. Like, hey, we like this. That helps the algorithm. That along with subscribing and sharing.
And
when you
share
see
those feeds.
Yeah,
Make sure you
share
share them to your friends.
Let the whole world know how it's going down here at MCW Pro.
And if you are listening on any of the podcast platforms, make sure you subscribe, because that helps from the podcast platform. That helps our algorithm there. When you not just listen to it, but make sure you subscribe to the podcast as well on this platform.
And I know it might feel like we're beating a dead horse because we typically come to you every week and mention all these things, but it does help, and we do see you participating and following what it is that we're asking. And speaking of which, don't forget that hashtag AskMCWCast.
That's right. And also we want to say thanks to our Coffee Club members, of course, for your continued support. We wouldn't be here without you, so we really appreciate you keeping us fueled on the cast. So if you too want to be a part of the Coffee Club and you get insider access to asking our guests questions and so forth, please go to buymeacoffee.com
Slash
MCW Cast.
I knew what you meant.
don't know why.
It's okay.
I
knew what
stumbled
you
on that
meant
one. I
too.
stumbled on that last time too. But anyway, so we thank you for your support. And it's just one of the many ways that you can support us, in addition to following us, subscribing, all of that. And of course, coming to our live events. We are back.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
We kicked in the door.
Way too long.
I
That's
know.
right. Yeah, Resurrection
17 months.
2.
It's hard to believe it was 17 months in between shows. You know, we don't run like some of the big major companies, but we're pretty steady for the last 15 years, 2 shows a month, sometimes 3 shows a month. So to all of a sudden, that was just so awkward to come to a grinding halt and then be down for so long.
Yeah, you couldn't believe it was happening when it was happening. You remember? You were
Yeah, just because it was surreal. Like if you remember that whole week, you go back. I mean, I know it's like reliving a nightmare for people,
Right.
but that week that things shut down, it was like it escalated so quickly because, I'm 47 years old. I'd never had anything like that. So it just didn't seem like nothing like that could be this serious. And then, it was in the media, but it wasn't in the media until all of a sudden then it was, you were hearing about like Italy and other stuff. But
Italy, it was a big
It didn't
one.
consume the media. So it was, a lot of people, just hadn't kind of registered. But that whole week leading up to it was like, it went from, because we had 2 shows that weekend.
That's what I'm
Remember,
saying. From a promoter standpoint, you were tunnel visioned on,
I was tunnel visioned on the shows that weekend.
I'm
We had
thinking
our
about
Joppa
that.
and Hollywood, which were 2
Yeah.
of our regular buildings. And we had big shows, 500 tickets sold for Joppa and like the same amount for Hollywood. So, yeah, once the week before a show, you guys know, because you guys, you guys, especially Tara, so much in the office, so to speak, of MCW, how much goes on. Like the week before a show, it just gets crazy. And when you got 2 shows that weekend, It's like it's hard to even get like regular shoot jobs done or work done because it's like just so many things leading up to a show. So yeah, I was tunnel visioned, and then when the commission's like, well, the governor might shut the state down, and I remember was like, what, for the flu? Like I remember being like, what are you talking about, for this flu thing? That's
Dan, you're not the only one. I remember Brett Lauderdale, the promoter for GCW, when we were gearing up for I guess Tampa that year, the Mania shows that were supposed to happen there. I remember him tweeting out, guys, it's a flu. You know that, like, so that mindset of a promoter of being tunnel vision for, we got to get to the finish line. I got these tickets sold. I got this talent booked. I got this building booked. It's like, guys, it's a flu. Come on.
It's like in the wintertime when it's, when there's the threat of a flurry in the air, we get how many messages come through going, what are you going to do about the show tonight? What are you going to do? We're going to drive to the show. You're going to put your big boy pants on and you're going to drive slowly through the snow, and we'll see you there.
I mean, I know we've discussed this on early episodes of the cast because it's like it just goes to that mindset of like in the wrestling business. I mean, I've talked about it. Remember, I had the show on the military base the Saturday after 9/11. I've told this story. And I was livid with Fort Meade that they were canceling the show because I had 1,000 tickets sold. And I'm like arguing, like, I mean, again, to my defense, I was 24, promoter like 3 years. And I'm like, I have 1,000 tickets sold. Why are you canceling? They're like, the country just got attacked by terrorists, like for an army base.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In another world war.
It didn't register. I was livid. You guys remember this because you probably remember me down the school going, this is BS, man.
I got married that week too. That's so it was like double things. I was like, wait, we have a show, and it was.
I just couldn't believe that I couldn't register to me why a military base had to shut down after 3,000 people were killed in the biggest terrorist attack in the history of the country. But I was 24 years old, a year or two, and you know what I mean. But wrestling, everything revolved around wrestling. So yeah, here it is. 20-some years later,
and you're kind of reliving it.
In
like,
some
way, shape,
The governor can't shut the state down for a cold. Little did I know what obviously happened and came of it this last 17 months. But
when Hogan drops that leg,
and that just shows how much that we make this a priority in our lives and how much we put into it and how it really does become kind of consuming, and we just become entrenched in it, and the rest of the world kind of ceases to exist. I know I'm terrible at like a show weekend. I won't respond to emails. I won't do the, and I'll get people for birthday parties going, oh, you didn't reply to me. I'm like, it was a show weekend. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well,
it's just.
And you know what that kind of goes back to? Maybe you can relate. Like, this is like people, again, at almost 50 years old, people that don't know wrestling and people be intrigued by it. But I've always said, like, wrestling always, my whole life since I was 8 years old, has protected me from unhappiness, like other things you're going through in life. You know what I mean? Like it's like rest, and that was taken away. You know what I mean? Like
your protection.
You're like you're going through some bad stuff in life. It used to be when I wrestled for 15 years. I remember, like, man, once you're in that ring, like no matter what I'm going through, a divorce or my house is being foreclosed on, like, man, I'm in that ring and.
It's all that matters.
As a promoter, that does the same thing for me. Shows like leading up to a shows, I could, no matter what I was going through on a show day, everything shut off, and I was just a wrestling promoter doing what I wanted to do since you know what I mean? Now you're just lost in that. You're lost. So like it's like wrestling has always taken me away from any other bad thing going on at that time in my life, and me even at 47 years old, man, it sucked not having that for the last year and a half. It really sucked.
Yep. Well, I think I speak for everybody here, that we are glad to be back and in the swing of things again. And we've got a great guest today for our episode, don't we, Larry?
Yeah, we do have a great guest. But what about our guest last week? We're very insightful talk with the King, Ryan McBride.
Sorry, I missed that when I was out.
Welcome back, Danny, by the way.
Yeah, I was just tied up a couple weeks. There was so much going on leading into the first show back.
Yeah, well, Ryan McBride is lucky you weren't here, because I would have liked to see you press him about the Cruiserweight Championship. We are
missing that over there on our shelf.
And he was the last champion. So if anyone can track that sucker down, it would be Ryan McBride.
The case of the missing cruiserweight.
Yes,
Remember
indeed,
that?
Yeah.
It's actually it was the cruiser title
Let's
because
find it and
the
bring
belt
it
maker
back.
spelled cruiserweight wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And we
Who's
just
really
never
gonna
got
look
it
at
fixed.
that?
We
You
just
know
never
they're
got
wrong.
it fixed.
Well, let's
you know.
find it and bring the cruiserweight belt back, maybe.
That's right.
You know, I don't know. All right, so who do we have this week?
Well, it's a great segue, Tara, because we go from Ryan McBride with all those accolades and championships to our guest this week. And I love how we've just come full circle. One of our first pair of guests on the cast ever were 2/3 of the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champions, Moses and Khan. And this week, we have former Ring of Honor television champion and the other third of the 6-man reigning and defending Ring of Honor's tag team champions, Shane Taylor of Shane Taylor Promotions, the CEO, the leader of Shane Taylor Promotions, is with us right here in studio this week.
All right, right after this break.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWcast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
And we are back, and not a moment too soon. Just like I said, without any further ado, our guest this week in studio with us, former Ring of Honor World Television Champion, 1/3 of the current Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champions, the man, the leader of Shane Taylor Promotions,
and the baddest of all time.
and the baddest of all time. You ain't got to tell me twice. Shane Taylor in studio with us. Welcome to the MCW Cast.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well,
That was
like I
some
said,
introduction, Larry.
well, we've
Yeah,
come
wow.
full circle. I feel it in my bones, you know, having Moses and Khan with us at the onset earlier during the infancy of the cast, and now the man is with us in studio today.
My guys. And it's been such a great, great feeling to be a part of seeing their growth and their maturation over the last year and a half or so that they've been with me. To be guys from MCW, to see them at the dojo, to them busting their ass every single day, to then people saying, well, we just don't know what to do with them. We just don't see it. And I go, I see it.
Yeah.
Watch this.
Right on.
And then all you have to do, and it just shows, just like a lot of things in life, when you have people who have it, all they need is the opportunity to showcase it. And once they do, then all of a sudden there's that light switch. Now everybody can somehow now see what you saw. You see what I'm saying? So to watch them gain confidence every single match, every single promo, every single time we go out, just watching them go up, 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 up. Man, there's no better feeling when you do this other than the looks that you see on like fans' faces, right?
Yeah.
But to see the people that you've not necessarily mentored or taught, but just have guided, you know what I mean? Because they do. I tell people all the time, this is just me guiding them and watching them do all the work, right? This is just me. All right, no, this way. There you go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, to be able to see that has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's awesome to see them go to that next level with you. Obviously, we really appreciate. I know I do. Like you, kind of taking them under your wing, because to kind of get that growth, you need it's always go up. I've always told, whether it's, you know, all the people I've helped break in, whether it was like them or Leo or Mickey James or Lita, like we're, you know, where we are down here at MCW, we teach them so much, and the wrestling business, you have to keep climbing that ladder. And I've always explained it as a ladder on the rung. And that's just, I'm comfortable with my spot where I'm at on, you know, down at the bottom of but you know, on that ladder, but without guys putting in that work, having that desire and being able to make those connections and get those opportunities to go rung to the, you know, to keep growing. And you've done that for them to help them grow as performers. It's awesome. We appreciate it.
No, I mean, the pleasure is all mine. That's my mentality about life, though, in general, right? Coming from where I come from, it's good for someone to have individual success, but that's not going to change. That's not going to change any cycles. That's not going to fix any of the problems that you have. Only when that person can be successful, reach back, pull everybody with them. And now, you know, instead of 1 millionaire, you have 2. Instead of 2, now you have 5. Instead of 5, now you have 10. And that's how all of this is supposed to work. So, and that's exactly what I want to showcase. That spirit, that's what we embody in STP, is that spirit of, look, we can go out here and be everything that our counterparts can be unified, and all reach the same goal together, without any of the stuff that you see predominantly in the media or in music or in anything else. When you see us, you get, especially kids, right? You get to see heroes that look like you, that are doing all the things that you want to do without any of the negative stereotypes and connotations that go along with it. And for me, that's the best part about this, is being able to see and have this vision, have everybody that's with me have the same goal, because they've seen the same stereotypes in wrestling, the same BS, the same stuff that I've seen my entire life. Having our fans be asking for this, like, look, can we stop having this? Can we stop having the same 5 black characters for 50 years? Right?
Yeah, we've talked about that with some of our guests before, and how important representation is, and not just that, but positive connotations and positive, you know, attributes and characteristics and so forth, like you're mentioning.
Absolutely.
Yes,
and
so
having
important.
that representation is great. Having that representation be good at the same time is better.
Yes.
Because you can't just, and it is what it is, but you can't just have, I'm trying to think the word, but you can't just have like the token group here.
Oh, sure.
Like you know what I mean? Like you can't just have, okay, well we'll insert this because this fills the quota. Right. And just because you're here, like, no, you have to be here and you have to be good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that's what's going to progress.
Right.
That's what's going to be able to show everyone, like, look, see, I told you we could do it.
Right.
And we are.
100%.
Tearing down those walls every day. That's great.
Every day.
And we talk about this. This becomes a reoccurring theme with many of our guests, is the early on guidance and sort of who showed you the way. And we want the MCW Pro Faithful that are listening right now to learn more about who first guided you onto the path to becoming the baddest of all time. So tell us a little bit about your origin story.
Are we talking about in wrestling or in life?
Well, in wrestling, but we'd love to hear in life, you know.
Okay.
Either one.
Open forum.
For wrestling, that would have to be Ray Rowe.
I knew it.
I mean, if anybody knows me, if you followed my career for a day or the 14 years that I've been doing this, which is crazy to think about, Ray Rowe is going to be that answer 100 times out of 100. I was also trained by a guy named J-Rock. Give it up one time. But Ray, being from the East Side, you know, we wrestled each other in high school, like our schools wrestled. He beat me. I was sick that day though, so I don't know. But man, trying to put into words what someone like that has meant for me in my life. You're talking about a kid who was told, you know, you shouldn't be in wrestling. Someone like you know, can't be a star. Someone like you can't lead a company. Someone like you only has this role. You can only be these things. This is what you're supposed to be. This is how fans are going to see you. And to have him say, screw all that. I see the work you put in every day, the passion that you have, the intensity that you have to be able to, like I'm doing with Khan and Moses and all my guys, to go, hey, you know what? Cool. Let me guide you this way. Let me show you how it should be done. And then watch you go out on your own and implement all of those things your way. He helped me move down to Texas when I first got there, had no job yet, was trying to start. He's like, you know what? I got the first month, all your bills, got you. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And like where I'd stayed at his old place, which isn't cheap. You know what I mean? So I'm in this like gated community. And I'm like, I don't belong here, fam. He's like, you do. Just wait. Just, you know what I mean? Like, and to where now here we are, fast forward a few years, own my own home, you know what I mean? 2 kids, married all through this crazy world of pro wrestling that he got me into, you know what I mean? So to be able to not only have the success that I've had, but to be able to help others is all blossomed from that railroad tree. To be able to see him come back from something that should have killed him in that car crash, and in the bike crash, to be able to see him heal, grow, be stronger than he was before, be more focused than he was, to be able to now be able to have damn near every title checked off as far as tag team titles go, to being a legendary tag team wrestler, which he is, and not only be at his dream job, but have the love of his life, have his first son, to be able to watch him do all of this. You know what I mean? Like his success, I feel better about even more so than my own or anybody else's, because you just know the kind of person he is.
You know, it just goes forward to hammer forth the point that being good, you know, not for anything to reap the benefits of being good, but being good, just being a good person, each one to teach one, the next one builds up, is only going to build you higher. Because look at the monumental success Ray Rowe has had in his career since, you know, guiding you. And I remember meeting you in Texas. I remember meeting you and Keith Lee. And before I met you, Ray Rowe said, hey, my man's coming to Texas, you know, look out for him, you know. And there was not much that I could do, but I understood where he was coming from. Like, this is a brother of mine that is getting shown the way, kind of like how Luke Hawks did the same thing for me and Ray Rowe when I was in Ring of Honor in 2014. He said, it's my guy Ray Rowe, you know, keep an eye out for him. He's good people, you know.
Same thing with Luke. Same guy. You know what I mean? Political ideologies aside.
Okay.
Right?
Of course, right?
Right.
In this room, political
right.
aside for everyone
You know
in the
what I mean?
past, you know.
So, but Luke is also one of those guys. One of the very first promotions that booked me when I moved down to Texas was Wildcat Sports in New Orleans. And he booked me, and this is word for word what he said. He goes, I know you sent me some tape. I didn't watch it, but Ray said you're good, so then here it is, right? He said, you got your shot. Cool. That's all I need, right? By the time I was done and got to the back, he came right up to me and was like, you have a job here as long as you want it. You know what I mean? So, like, these are the kind of people that, you know what I mean? And this is why I tell folks, like, having talent is good. Having drive is good. Having determination, fantastic. Having the right people around you is the best thing that you can do. Because even if you lack talent, right, but you still have the heart and the drive and determination, you're going to get opportunities because of the people that you surround yourself with. That positive
exactly
mindset.
what you said to me when I joined.
It's
You were
building
like,
social capital.
Right.
And it's
100%.
so I teach this thing. I teach college. I
Right.
teach this to my students.
Right.
Like I have them make a list. Like, who do you know? Oh, I don't know anybody. No, you do.
You do.
Let's
Yeah.
sit down. Let's. This is, you know, we're a community. No matter what field you're in, no matter what career you choose, you can be a part of a community. Sure, you can go through life with blinders on, which we know a lot of people do.
Right.
You know, and they're in it for themselves. Whatever. Me first. But it doesn't work that way. And like you're not going to get the success or life quality or enjoyment or satisfaction until you say, all right, we're connected in ways that we might not know. So I have my students do, I teach diversity classes. So
No,
that's
that's
why. And that's,
phenomenal.
you know, I say, who do you know and who's there for you? Who's got your back? Because you know what? Everybody feels like they're alone, or everybody needs that connectedness. Let's put it down on paper. So
100%.
Yep.
And there's that quote, and I can't remember who it's by, but it stuck with me as soon as I heard it and said, "You show me a man's friends, and I'll show you his future." You know what I mean?
Makes a lot of
100%.
sense.
And something
Yeah.
like I was like, "Yo."
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
because where I'm from, I see people who had so much talent, so much potential, were so smart, just stay with the same crowd doing the same stuff. And if you know, everybody is not meant to go on the ride with you.
Yep.
That's another thing
yeah.
that like even now, because I'm a loyal guy, I want to so bad to just pull everybody. Come on. And it's just like, bro, not everybody is meant to go.
No,
Not
because some
everybody
people
can
got to
go.
want it for themselves
Yeah.
too before you can help reach out. And
Absolutely.
I've learned that as being a trainer now and mentor for 20 some years. You know, there's been guys. I always talk like RJ, the bruiser that he had passed away. He ran MCW for me for the last 10 years, and the trainer and we would have these discussions of that he never understood the heartbreak, where I'd say like RJ would say like he would say like I'd say you'll understand as a trainer when you start training some of these kids when they break your heart, because you know they have all the potential to make it, but they don't want to. They don't want to put that work in. Like you're reaching out and for Khan and Moses, but those guys, they put the work in. They put the work in here at they built their own foundation here and put the work in to be able to be in the position to reach out to you. And they got to do that first. So they got to be willing to put that work in first to get that to the next level.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned that we got to the heart of who guided you in the wrestling business, but you
Right.
also asked you mean in life or wrestling.
Right.
We'd love to hear about early life for Shane Taylor. Did you know when you were a little one you wanted to pursue pro wrestling? Or
Funny story.
Yeah, we want to hear it.
Right.
This is the
So
place.
I think this my life and where I'm at now surprises nobody in my family. I think it's something that they knew was coming. They didn't know how we'd get here, but they knew this was going to be a thing. I actually got kicked out of preschool for wrestling, and I don't mean for a day. Like, I mean, I had to change preschools. Like, we are very, where I'm from, which is Eastside, Cleveland, Ohio, it's family over everything, right? So wrestling was our way of, just like you were saying, that protection from other things. Grew up, saw a lot of violent stuff, saw a lot of drug stuff, I've probably been to over 100 funerals by the time I was 12. Like, people were just dropping left and right, right? So, but wrestling, and back then there was only like 4 big shows a year, and like we lived very close in proximity, so like each house would get like 1 big show a year, right? And so while we were there, as long as everyone was here, you didn't have to worry about if someone was gonna make it home or not. You didn't have to worry about if someone was gonna get caught in the streets or get gunned down or anything else like that. Everybody was here. So having that feeling while I'm watching, guys like The Undertaker, guys like Vader on my screen, watching Ron Simmons, they're like, whoa, it was incredible, right? So you take that and you have this family over everything mindset. So we're in preschool, me and my cousin Walter, who graduated from Harvard Business School, so that's dope. Killing it, in the stock game. So there were these kids who were messing with him. We weren't having it. You know what I'm saying? So we got to working. You know what I'm saying? And I remember him holding them down, me climbing up on top of this table. I have no idea what the teacher was doing this entire time.
And this is preschool.
Yeah, we were wilding out. So I get up on top and I'm like, hey, elbow from the top, And this is not the way I know to do it.
Yeah,
this was
right. You gave him the elbow off the
putting
top.
this point right to your chest, homie. Boom, dropping this kid. You know what I mean? And parents getting called, and everybody wanting to sue and all this other stuff. And I remember thinking like, yo, we are going to be in so much trouble, right? And then my dad was just like, nah, I'm taking y'all to get ice cream. And we were like, what? He's like, no, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. And that's you stuck up for each other. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. And it was dope. Like people still talk about that.
So you
in the
guys
family to this day.
were actually the 6-man tag team champions.
Listen, bro, listen.
You guys, that was your first 6-man
I was a
tag.
tag. I was a tag champ long before ROH. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But, yeah. So, but like my family, especially my dad and my uncles and my cousins, are a lot of the reason why, I'm still here and not a product of the system somewhere, right? Because it was very easily going that way because of who my family is, because of the reputation that we have. Not all of it good. People tend to, when they can't touch the boss, they tend to want to try the next guys, right? We weren't having that, right? So we were going above and beyond to go like, nope, you ain't getting us either. And even my dad was like, relax. You know what I mean? Like, y'all need to chill. You know what I'm saying? Because we were just going that hard, and he saw that it was going to get out of hand very, very quickly, right? So having the people, having him sit me down and just tell me, like, look, you have the potential to be everything in this life that I couldn't be. You have the potential to be a better man than me. You have the potential to be more successful than me. And he's like, if this is the life that you want to choose, I will show you how to be the best at that. But you can be more than that. There is no 401k plan here. There is no retirement package. This only ends one of two ways, right? Either you go to jail or someone takes you out of here. That's in your whole life is paranoid. There is no retirement plan for gangsters, right? Like this is the life. Or you go on and do something else. So I was the first member of my family to go to college, first member, to leave and do the things that I wanted to do. And now I get to travel the world living the dream that got me kicked out of preschool. You know what I mean? But along the way, at very pivotal points, you had someone who was just like, go that way. You know what I mean? Yeah. And again, it all goes back to the right people around you, making sure that you're going to be successful, because there's been a lot of times that things could have gone way left.
Now, wrestling wasn't the only sport for you, correct?
No, it was not. Wrestling I started in middle school, but you had football, track, baseball when I was younger. So I've been very blessed to be around, to be able to learn how to communicate with different people from all walks of life, all trying to achieve this common goal as a team. You know what I mean? Which, like you were saying, only leads back to how things work in real life, because you're not gonna have the same things in common. You're not gonna look the same. You're not gonna walk the same, talk the same. So you're gonna have to get along with different people to achieve your goals, which is, what wrestling is.
Right. Wow.
Life lessons learned from professional wrestling,
That's great.
That is also a recurring theme on the cast. We're going to delve a little bit deeper after our first break here. We're going to hear from Danny Mays, little station identification, but we'll be right back here with Shane Taylor, the baddest of all time.
All time.
Show your support for the MCW cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, and we're back with the baddest of all time, Shane
Sounds
Taylor.
so good.
It does.
What did you come up with your name? Where was the origins of your name, coming up with your name?
Actually, me and my family are all huge boxing fans. My dad is all Army. My uncles are all Golden Gloves. So my entire life, anybody that knows me or has talked to me for any amount of time, I probably talk about boxing more than anything else. And so once I became comfortable with who I am as Shane Taylor, it was trying to figure out how to bring every aspect of my personality out. And I went to what I know best, which is boxing. And so what and who Shane Taylor is three different parts of three of my favorite fighters of all time, which are Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson, and Muhammad Ali. Now, if anybody's followed the story of Floyd, he left Top Rank. Management wasn't doing what he thought they were supposed to. He left, decided to go form Mayweather Promotions, and now he's the guy, right? He's able to control his own destiny, make his own cash, and, has elevated the sport of boxing to all new heights, where $30 million was the base. Now people are looking at $100 million figures because he did that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I challenge anybody like, well, he's not. Listen,
I love him.
the
I
name
love
of
Floyd.
this
I love
game
Floyd.
is longevity and money made
Yeah.
in any physical combat thing. Right. If you look at the scoreboard of boxing like a video game, it reads most money made Floyd, least damage taken Floyd, most pay-per-view buys Floyd. Like he's got the number one score on everything. He's the best.
He's the final boss.
100% he
Yeah.
is. So you take his ability to be controversial, to be polarizing,
Yeah.
and his ability to talk people into a fight, talk people into a building, no matter who his opponent is. You think that person has a shot, like they're going to be the guy that's going to knock off the king, right? They're not, but that's the way it seems. So you take that, you take the in-ring tenacity and the killer instinct of a Mike Tyson, you apply that, and we all know everybody loved Mike Tyson for his ability to just knock the hell out of people.
Oh my God. I cried when he lost.
Bruh.
Like I was in high school. I was like 16 or 17. I bawled my eyes out.
It was
when he lost
shocking.
to
It was
Buster
shocking,
Douglas. I
yeah.
was so devastated. Like my friends were making fun of me. They're like, "Dude, I was crying."
Who was
I
that, Buster
loved-
Douglas?
Bro,
When I loved Mike Tyson.
there's
I
only been
cried
3
my-
times that I've ever cried in sports. When he lost to when he lost, when Roy Jones got knocked out by Tarver, because Roy Jones was my guy too.
Yeah.
And when Floyd fought Arturo Gatti, and I love Gatti because and I love them both, but Gatti especially, he just had that heart, man. He was just gonna go out on his shield. But I'm watching the fight and just watching Floyd beat the brakes off a Gatti, and I'm like, stop the fight, bro. Like I'm just even Floyd is looking like, why damn, lead right? Are you what? Like it was just tough to watch. You know what I mean? But going back to what we were saying. So you have that in-ring killer instinct of a Tyson, but most importantly for me, is the ability to be an icon outside of the ring, to be able to be that leader that a Muhammad Ali was, to be able to let people know this is the platform that I stand on. These are my beliefs. These are my values. This is what I am willing to risk it all on. That to me is the most important thing, because money, fame, all that stuff is going to come and go, right? Who you are, what you represent, and how you carry yourself is everything. So taking all 3 of those, and then when you look at the name, right, you see somebody like Ali and he's the greatest of all time, right? But to me, the greatest is subjective based on the style that you like, right? So if we're talking about wrestling, if I'm not a high flyer, but all of your greatest are high flyers, I'm never going to be in that
ranking.
in that ranking,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So for me, I'm not out here looking to be the greatest. What I am going to do, though, is be the guy that day in and day out is the first one to show up, the last one to leave. I'm going to be the one to say the things that other people are scared to say. I'm going to be the one that's going to stand up for things that other people are afraid to say anything about. I'm going to be the one that's willing to risk it all every single time and prove that not only can I do it here, but I can do it outside. I may not be your greatest, but I will be the baddest. And to me, having that reputation, not only with the people around me, but the fans and my peers in this sport means everything, because they can look and go, all right, like he's the guy. You mean, so to have people like the Briscoes now, who I started watching in 2006, 2007, right? Be able to stand across the ring from them at Final Battle and them go, Shane T's the real deal. You're the baddest. You know what I'm saying? Like that's everything.
I love those guys too, man.
I still remember them when they were in high school, and we could only book them in Delaware.
Them, man. I was using them on my show when I wasn't supposed to.
Right.
Yeah,
and they were
not
16.
in this state.
Right.
Not
They
in
were
this state.
and they were 16. We were using them on shows, and they were just such skinny kids, man.
Oh my
that had
gosh.
Skinny kids,
And their
but
little
had
blue.
yeah,
Didn't they
and
have a
like-
blue singlet or
like
something?
little
like
plain
like high
singlets,
school
so-
wrestling.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
But they were just good kids, and I
Yeah.
was introduced to them, and like, yeah, man, you'll like these kids, and yeah, we would run in Delaware, and we would use them, and their parents, Mom and Pop Briscoe, would help us promote.
Yes.
We'd run
Hey,
there,
yeah.
like, but it's
Oh
so
my gosh,
funny
I
seeing them.
remember.
Shout
now,
out to
'cause
Big
they were-
Man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Papa Briscoe.
He I got him involved in a show in the 1990s. Remember, we did it at their high school, and
Yep,
Papa Briscoe
yeah, I
came in.
remember.
I've been a mark for him from way
Right.
back
Yep.
then. He-
Oh,
he-
he's
best.
Yeah.
still getting involved.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
listen,
he just
I saw that promo they did for the Briscoe versus Briscoe
Yeah.
on the farm,
Uh-huh.
and I freaking went bananas when Papa Briscoe
Yeah.
came on. Like,
Some of the greatest compliments that I get, right, will be stuff like that, where like one of the Briscoes will come up and be like, "Hey, my dad loved that," and I was like, "Hey, that's all I need to hear." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's all I need to hear, because
Oh, yeah.
if you get that seal, because he's seen everybody,
Oh, yeah.
He's seen everything, seen them all come and go,
yeah.
right? So to have him go, stamp that, yeah, that's what I like. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
like, all right, we got something.
I definitely can empathize with that, you know, just by going by the moniker of legend. I gotta be
I
able
mean-
to, you know, blow when I'm in that ring and I've got that microphone so that I live up to the namesake. And definitely the baddest of all time. If you got the Briscoes and Papa Briscoe giving you that stamp,
I mean,
you know, they're them boys.
Yeah.
You
them
know,
boys for a
so-
reason. And just real quick, like their ability to stay the same yet
Oh
evolve.
gosh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
like people give them all the accolades for the tag title wins and all that is dope, but like their ability to stay the same yet change
oh yeah.
is remarkable.
Yeah.
You know what I
And you
mean?
don't see that from a lot of guys in
Right.
the
You
business, but that have
right.
that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
The
oh.
first one obviously comes to mind. It's like Undertaker.
Of course, yeah.
That evolved and just changed that over and was just amazing to stay on top for 25. You
But
know
like
what I
think
mean? Yeah,
but think of the first
Right.
name that you threw out. Like
Right.
that's
right.
we're
that's putting
talking
him up- yeah,
you see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Like you're
Jericho
talking
was the
Jericho's
guy.
another one,
Jericho's
yeah,
the
yeah.
guy.
your Ortons, your Cenas,
Uh-huh.
your Jerichos, like you're talking all time
yeah,
great,
right.
your Rocks, like guys that have
Right.
that should, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
so,
Yeah.
shout out to them.
You can look at the Briscoes over the years and you can create a limited edition action figure set
Right.
of each one of them. You know, there's the Confederate flag era. There's like the Duck Dynasty era. You know, they've had so many eras. Jay with the mohawk, Mark Bald,
Yeah.
you know, with
Yeah.
the long hair, you know,
Yeah.
like, and you could just have like sets of them for all over the years. And you could do that with, you know, Undertaker and Jericho.
Yeah, and such good, man. That whole family.
Oh
such
gosh,
good
yeah,
people, man.
yeah, you
Absolutely.
know,
Just
I love
really-
I
they're
love the
really just good
Briscoes.
people,
I
man.
miss them.
Just- yeah.
I want to get you know, kind of do a acai moonsault off of you know your
All right.
your three fighters there, and talk about like not being afraid to speak up and say what needs to be said in life, kind of like the road that Ali followed.
Yep.
And I want to talk about something that really was just one of the most moving things for me during the pandemic was the Ring of Honor roundtable with African American talent. And I remember when I first heard about it, I kind of resented it a little bit because I was thinking to myself, oh, now Ring of Honor wants to bring this up because it's kind of a hot topic. It's a
Right.
hot button issue right now. You know, no one's doing shows, so, you know, is this just them throwing stuff that sticks against the wall?
Right.
And I actually spoke with Ian Riccaboni, and he told me that you really kind of had spearheaded that, and that really kind of put things in perspective for me, that this came from a place where knowing, not knowing that you wanted to model the Ali of like not being afraid and leading by example in society because of the life lessons that wrestling can kind of teach, but just finding out that you were spearheading that, it really made me feel good on the inside. And I wanted you to maybe speak on like how that came to be. If MCW faithful, if you don't know, Ring of Honor did 2 roundtables during the Global Gimmick, where the focus was really the African American experience in the professional wrestling industry, and talking about that, which is something that kind of has gotten glossed over for years. So can you talk to our people and talk to us about how that really came to be and how you were instrumental in making it happen?
Sure. I mean, that was an important thing for a lot of us, especially given some of the stigma that ROH has had over the years, and hearing so many times from people who either didn't come there or left, like, look, you're not going to change that place. It's run a certain way. It's going to be run a certain way. They're like, this is just how it's going to forever be. And my only thought throughout hearing those things are like, well, if no one's here to change it, then how does it change?
True.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like if no one is here fighting for this, then it's never going to be the way that we want it to be, that we know it can be, right? So after so many situations, after the George Floyd cases, after all the cases, like we could sit here all day and name the atrocities that happened, right? But after that, and seeing just how Ring of Honor has supported, other causes and other things, I was seeing that a lot of that energy wasn't there, but I wanted it to be. So I made my opinions known to those that had the power to change that. I let them know that, hey, this is something that is important to me. It's not just important to me, but I'm the one that's going to tell you that it's important, and we should probably do a better job of handling this. They were very receptive to that, to their credit, and we were able to put together with Kevin Eck and others this round table to talk about not only the African American experience in wrestling, but in society as well. Yeah. And I know we talked about wrestling being an escape, right? But for all those who are listening and going, well, I don't want to hear about this stuff in my wrestling, that it should just be this. Understand something. Other people get to come in here and cut everything off and simply be that character, right? I don't get to turn being black off. I have the same exact problems when the light comes on than when it goes off. I'm living in the same place, in the same society. I have to deal with the same issues, right? I could be in full gear traveling down the road. The cop is not going to be like, oh, well, you're a wrestler. Oh, it's okay. Like, no, right. I'm still who I am. So we don't get the luxury of being able to turn this off when we want to. That's why it's important to be able to address these things in an entertaining way, but be able to address these things whether the red light of the show is on or it's off, or we're having conversations like this, because this is the time where we have your ears. Yeah. Right? Just like when Colin knelt, everybody's like, well, why is he doing it there? Because you're paying attention.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we've talked about this before early on in our show history. We had talked about, I personally feel that people who have a platform, and like you said, when someone's watching you, the eyes are watching you, you kind of have an obligation or a duty to kind of use that. You know what I mean? If there's something, if your voice can mean something and change something or bring attention to an issue, then I kind of feel like you should. Like we had talked about it, about people showing their vaccination cards, for example. Right. You know, it's that kind of thing where, well, you do have a platform and you could be the difference. You could make someone who wouldn't previously have heard hear you. Right. You know, you might just be that change. So
absolutely. And what a lot of people have this misconception too, that change is supposed to be comfortable. It's not. Yeah. It's the absolute opposite of that. Right. Change is uncomfortable. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be painful. Right. Because you're used to something going a certain way. But now here you are, you have this now variable that tells you, no, we have to change course. right? And that's going to be uncomfortable, especially if you're living a way or things are set up around you and they're beneficial, right? I always tell I tell folks all the time, right? You can't expect people to change the rules of a game that they're winning.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
keep this the way it's going.
You know
We're
what I
coming
mean?
out on top.
Like,
you
it's
know?
like, why would I change this? This is
Right,
a good
yeah.
thing. You're like, well, cool, but if you really think about it, you'd be even more successful if everybody in the game could play.
Right. And people
great way to
miss
put
this
it.
about like equity. Like, well, giving somebody what they need to succeed doesn't take away,
what you
from
have.
what somebody else
Right.
already has. So if
Yeah.
someone needs more, they need more. It's not like hard, but there's that kind of mentality and that, resistance that you might encounter, from people who don't want that change. Well, it doesn't affect me, or my life is fine, or you know what I mean, or everything seems okay on my end.
Right.
That was 400 years ago. We're good. No,
And,
no.
and the thing about that is, too, there's so many misconceptions about history because our schools are terrible and don't teach anything of value. But that's a whole nother issue. But people act like, well, everything, like Harriet Tubman was alive the same, like during like Reagan's time. Like this is not
Right.
hundreds
Right.
of years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
This is current. Like they had like sharecroppers up until like the 1980s. Like I was born in 85. Like there were
Right.
still people in the South still doing and very much
Right.
being, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the young girl who was escorted into her school in, when segregation ended. She is
Ruby
in her,
Bridges.
I couldn't think of her name. Sorry. She's 60 years old or in her 60s. I
Right.
mean, this is our
They
lifetime.
integrated schools in like
Yeah.
what, 65?
Right.
Yeah.
Like my
Yeah.
dad was born in 58.
Right.
100%,
Like this is
yeah.
not hundreds. This is previous generation. Like this is the next generation, right? So like it's trying to get people to understand like exactly what we're dealing with in real time.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like this is not some. And to be fair, it's an incredible amount of progress in such a short amount of time, but it only lends to the fact that we have so much further to go.
Yeah.
Because it's like, just think what would happen. Because there's so many people that say, well, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and even playing
Oh, the
field.
grit ideology.
It's like, listen,
I hate that.
If what we're saying is exactly what you're saying, but what we're saying is, hey, let's actually make it fair.
Right.
Let's actually get an even playing field. Let's actually put it to a point where people are going to have to lift themselves up by their bootstraps. And okay, fine. But you can't, just like MLK said, you can't tell a shoeless man to pick himself up by his
Right.
bootstraps.
Everybody needs to have boots.
Right.
Exactly. That's the whole
You know what I'm
equity
saying?
thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like everybody needs to have boots and laces to be able to
Right.
do that. You know what I
Right.
mean? But I from my experience, a lot of those people, like a lot of the loudest people against it are the ones that are the most fearful, because they understand that if the playing field gets evened, it's not going to be long before they get surpassed. You know what I mean? Because other people are just hungrier or whatever the case may be. That's what that fear is. If I give them this, I'm going to have less because they're going to pass me. But it's like, you have to have the same faith in yourself that you were just telling us to have, or it's all, you know what I mean? It's all for nothing.
So essentially, we're talking like maybe, I don't know, I'm just throwing this number out there, 52 non-of-color WWE champions in the history of the game. One of-color champion, well, now two in the history.
Three?
3.
Oh, yeah, 3.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Bianca as well. 3. We need to get 52 so that this thing is balanced.
Right.
And I don't think that that'll ever happen.
Well, I mean, it's like presidents, right? We're not gonna get
yeah.
43 other black presidents,
You're
right?
100% right, yeah.
That's not gonna be a thing. But what I think is the best course of action, right? And this is just my personal thing. People can disagree if they want. I think we need to celebrate our wins and stop trying to deviate, especially in the community of who is this and who is not that, right? A lot of people, for example, like The Rock, tend to try to discredit things that he's done. Well, he's this. I don't care. When he goes outside, that's who he is, right? We need to celebrate that win. Everybody that can help us take a step forward should be celebrated, and they should be celebrated to the full because they're doing it.
You know what? Yeah, this really hits home. Not too long ago, and I know we had to take another break shortly. I had City Council President Nick Mosby and the State's Attorney General Marilyn Mosby visit my restaurant, and when I saw them, I was tickled pink that I had these high profile of guests that were joining me at the restaurant. But a lot of my coworkers were like, oh, I don't care about them. They don't get any special treatment. They're going to wait just like everyone else. And just kind of like, you know, from a promoter standpoint, or should I say a host standpoint,
Right.
I'm thinking, let's send these folks winks. This is a good look for us to be attracting this type of clientele at our restaurant. And at the end of the day, you know what? Regardless of what their past or the speculation is, they have attained the title of State's Attorney General. They have attained the title of City Council President. You haven't. So, you know, let's celebrate that we have these, you know, members of society that, you know, kept themselves on the straight and narrow, maybe, you know, fell a little bit, but pulled themselves up by the bootstraps or whatever have you. And
But
made
they're
it
human.
They're
You know,
human, right? So let's celebrate.
And this is, you know, I mean, this is everybody's going to have flaws, right? And what I'm saying is you don't have to expect people to be perfect, but what you should be able to do is separate the individual from the achievement, right?
100%, yeah.
And if you're able to do that, you can think however you want to personally,
Right.
but the achievement to be able to then open doors for someone else to be a state's attorney general,
Yes, just
Yes.
to
or a
see
city
that,
council, to
right?
be able to okay, hey, like he says he did do this, but he was but now we got this guy who came in behind him who's able to do this. Like you still have to be able to celebrate all those steps.
Yep.
That's right, yeah.
Well, speaking of celebrating, when we come back from our break, we're going to talk about some of your accolades in some of the promotions that you've worked for and some of the titles along with the 6-man tag team champion title that you're polishing over there. So stay with us. We'll be right back after these moments.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWcast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
And we're back. I want to, before we get into your accomplishments, I just kind of want to go back on what we were talking about before we went to the break, because I don't even know, to give you a different perspective, I don't even know if you maybe realize one of the things you do that, like, I started reading your stuff and following you on Facebook. So I'm a guy that hates political and social stuff being slammed in your throat, but maybe, but it's because if you don't listen, you're a racist, and it's like yelled at you.
Right.
So my favorite person on earth that I love, I will support him financially on anything he does. I'm flying to New Orleans because he's doing a show in September, is Dave Chappelle. Freaking love him. And I love him even more when I love listening to his message. Like when all the George Floyd stuff was going on, I had to turn it off because it was like too much fighting and screaming. But when Dave Chappelle put out his special to explain his perspective, not only was I tuned in, but I was like, oh man, there was watching his 8-minute bit that he put out explaining, like I was like, oh man, I get that. Like, and I wanted to hear, and I wasn't tuned out because of the way he messages. And I say that because this kind of puts you in high regards. Like, I watch and look at all your Facebook stuff because when you talk about racial issues and stuff on a lot of your posts on Facebook, you're not just screaming at people, but you're explaining how things impact you and why things should bother. And that's why I started kind of following your stuff when you talk about it, just because I was like, oh, like it, you know what I mean? You're not yelling at people and saying, hey, if you don't listen to this, you're a racist or you don't care. You're like, man, this is why this thing meant something to me. You explain a lot about different things, how they meant to you. And when you say it in the way that you're messaging and delivery, I think you make people that may in other times tune it out want to say, okay, well, I didn't think about that because you're not yelling at people, like
the approach that I try to take, right? Life is about experience, right? It's experience and perspective, right? So being that I played so many sports and I knew so many different types of people, I understand, okay, we could be seeing the same thing from two different perspectives, all right? So instead of me yelling at you from my side, let me just have you come over here and see it from my side so you understand why I'm saying this, right? And for me, I try to balance out and just stay neutral. I try to keep, which is hard because a lot of these things are emotional issues. But I simply try to use historical context and fact to go like, look, I understand that like the argument people, well, I didn't own slaves. I get it. We understand. That's not the issue. The issue is the way things have been set up systemically, right? To where land, which is the foundation of building generational wealth, pay gaps, redlining, redistricting, reconstruction, all of these things play a factor into how this gap came to be, right? So yes, it's almost like being born with an inheritance, right? So it's like, okay, yes, you didn't build the company, but here you are with these millions of dollars, and all I'm saying is, hey, the system was set up this way. If you allow everyone to get back on this track and to get to a point that we as a nation talk about, if we actually lived up to our creed, you'd be just as upset with these things going on,
absolutely,
as I am.
Right.
You can't tell me in one post that you're against kneeling for the anthem because you respect the troops, and yet ignore the fact that millions of troops died daily homeless.
Right.
Right.
You can't.
Yeah.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, where is the line? Like, so if we're arguing one thing, you have to be consistent with that across the board, at least when it comes to a conversation with me, because then you're just picking and choosing, and then I have to question your motives on why you picked and chose that.
Yeah.
Right.
And
You know what I'm saying?
the picking and choosing is such a crucial thing because we see that on some of these highest rated cable television shows where they pick and choose, and I'm thinking specifically of someone here, but
There's a few.
who this particular person feels very threatened by, immigrants and so forth,
Right.
changing the status quo, changing the vote, changing the demographics. And it's like, the things that you're saying are rational and should make perfect sense to most people. But then you have people that come along like that where they've twisted it and distorted it. And they have a genuine fear, I think, of that change that you were talking about earlier.
And my question would then be, if all of this ran as perfectly as you say it does,
Right.
why would someone else being in your spot scare you?
Yep. Exactly.
If this all ran as smoothly as you say it does, if there was no issues, if race is no longer a factor, if all of these things are no longer a factor, why would you be scared for the power to shift?
Right. Right.
Because there's a reason you're afraid. Because you know it's imbalanced. Because you know it's incorrect. You know other people are being pushed down, and you're afraid of being where they are.
And inherently, they believe that they should be up here and other people should be down here, and that's the reality of it.
Which is a product of the ridiculous education that we are given and the revisionist history that we are given. Because it shouldn't take a show like Watchmen to teach millions of people that the Tulsa massacres occurred.
And how many people didn't know about that, who had never heard that because it wasn't taught in their school?
I remember, because my family taught me a good job of teaching me these things. I remember asking about that in school, and my history teacher not knowing what I was talking about. And from that point on, I was like, all right. I'm gonna learn what I need to pass these tests, but the rest of this is ridiculous. Like, but these history is written by the victors, and so I'm understanding more as I deal with people, and I tell them, like, okay, you are ignorant to the subject, and I don't mean that as a disrespectful thing. It just means you don't know. I can't expect you to argue a point you're not familiar with. So let me give you the information. Let me give you all of the facts as to why this is the way this is. This is the entire truth, right? And then you decide. But then after giving you all of that, right? If you believe 2 and 2 is 5, and I give you all of the information as to why 2 and 2 is 4, and you still want to tell me it's 5, hey, think 5 all you want. I'm out of this conversation.
You've done the best you can do.
There's nothing else for me to do here.
You've done
right. You have now chosen to have that cognitive dissonance. Is there? You no longer want. You just want to stick. Hey, do your thing.
Yep. Yeah, it's frustrating. This is why I'm not active on social media, because I get in these, back and forths, or I see or I read things, and I'm just like, I just can't deal with this. Like, I don't know. And because like what I do in my real job is, so it has a high emotional investment, and I am very committed to it. So I try to conserve my energy, but you're right. If you believe 2 + 2 is 5, it's very unlikely that I am going to change your mind, or I'm going to
tip the scales because your grandma and grandpa, they told you that it was 5. It's like, well, yeah, but they were they have the same ignorance that you did. I understand but they were wrong too. It doesn't make them bad people.
Yeah.
It just means that they didn't know.
They didn't know.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And everybody was lied to, but here we are telling you, okay, hey, if we all get on the same page, we can fix a lot of these issues just with the people. Yeah. And then how much better is it going to be when we can all look and go, okay, well, there's no reason for us to really be arguing about, there's no reason for us to argue here. Hey, why are there 3 dudes going to space? Like, you know what I mean? There's like world hunger, but these guys are just going into space with phallic rockets. All right, okay. All right. But, it is what it is.
Hell of a question.
This could go a whole different direction, 100%. Obviously, and we could go on for hours.
All day about this.
How much of it do you think that this is where I just don't believe that a lot of the politicians really want to fix all these things. I believe they use them as issues to continue to be elected on, and that's what's frustrating, brother. And you feel like when the younger politicians come along, that you can tell like they seem sincere. With whether you go to both like a AOC or like on the Republican side, like a guy like Dan Crenshaw that's a SEAL, and they kind of get snubbed out, they kind of get shut down. Like you can, whether it's both sides, you feel like, man, they seem sincere about what their beliefs are, but they just get snubbed.
Just like I said,
down.
No one is going to change the rules of a game that they are winning.
Exactly. Exactly.
Someone has to come in and go, no, man, we're changing these rules, because
this works for me.
The whole game is rigged. We have to change the rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you a game that, whether it be rigged or not, the game of pro wrestling, and we wanted to come back and talk about some of the accolades.
Great segue. Great segue.
I want to get
true professional.
It's okay. Stay on target. Stay on target.
Usually that's me. Like I'm the traffic director. So thank you, Larry.
But we do want to talk about some of the accolades.
But this was a good conversation.
It was. It's part of the reason that we talk.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But we want to talk about some of the things that you have accomplished in your career to date. Come on now. There was a time where when we first met, I believe it was 2015. Our format says 2014, but I think it was May of 2015 that you and I first came across each other's path. And at the time, you were a member of a tag team called the Pretty Boy Killers. And this is Ring of Honor, Amarillo, Oklahoma tour 2015. And at every Ring of Honor show, there are individuals that are there that are looking for opportunities or have been told just show up. I was one at one
to
point.
that area when they go to different towns.
Exactly. Just show up. You got to be seen. You got to, we've got to take a look at you. And I will never forget the time that I saw you and a man that we are familiar with by the name of Keith Lee in Amarillo, Texas for that tour, looking for that opportunity. Nothing happened that night, but the next night in Oklahoma City, Ring of Honor show there was a match that y'all were involved in. We finally got our first taste of Shane Taylor in Ring of Honor wrestling.
Yeah. Man, it was so wild because I had done a few darks prior to that.
Okay.
And each time had good feedback, but then it was just, just not right now. And so we would go back to the lab with Ray, and we go back to the gym and work. And what we did was make sure everything that I was told to correct, by the time I came back for the next loop, I had fixed those things. And so then it was just checking things off a list at that point, right? So the first 2 or 3 matches I had, they liked what they saw was getting better. They could see that I was listening, that I was coachable. So that played a big part. And then once me and Keith got the suits and we walked in, I remember Kevin Kelly walking past us, turning around and going, "I like this." And then from that point on, they knew they had something to work with.
So that's a huge call out. And not to reveal too much behind the scenes, but our director of the cast here, a few weeks back, I saw him and he was like just dressed to the nines, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Hey man, it's a show date." And it gets you so far. Leo Rush did it, Adam Cole did it, and I remember.
Kikoa.
Yeah.
Yep.
We talked about it with him, and it's all about looking the part. Are you here to work? Are you here to look like a professional?
Are you taking this seriously? Yeah.
And a point that you pointed out from a promoter and all for 25 years and wrestler myself. I'm not going to throw a couple guys under the bus, but I know 2 guys. What you said about when you went and you went back to the lab and they said this is some things you could work on, and you changed those things when you went back. There's a couple guys that are wrestling that have probably not had opportunities with the major companies, but could have had them because they were told things like, "Hey, you know what? Like, drop 10 pounds and get some abs." And I've had these conversations, and I'm like, "Okay, so the next time you went back to WWE, what happened?" And they're like, "Oh, they busted my chops about my gut still." I'm like, so you didn't drop the 10 pounds and have abs when you went back 4 months later for the next, like, no. And I'm like, why?
You're not coachable.
Right.
You're not coachable.
Trainable. Yeah,
like that's probably why they blew you off.
Yeah.
Like they told you what to do, and I'd say those guys there and the producers and all there, they deal, and whether it's WWE, Ring of Honor, AEW, those bigger companies, they're telling you that because they like you enough to have a conversation with you, and they're saying, "Hey, this is what you don't stand out here, you know what I mean." But if you dropped and you could see your abs and it blows me away that like, so you're telling me you couldn't lose 10 pounds of body fat in 4 months the next time you went back to the tapings and you didn't listen, to a Road Dogg, like for instance, one of the producers, like, so you went back to Road Dogg and he's busting your chops about your gut. He's telling you, "Hey man, I told you what to do.
Right.
And you didn't do it. Right. So now I don't take you serious."
Yep.
I mean, and
you know what I mean? And it's
absolutely.
It's like,
and there's a lot of these things that like, these are tests that people like to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whether it be stuff like that, or sometimes people just like to see what your reaction is going to be.
Yeah.
Body language, how you carry yourself, all these things. A guy like The Miz, right? He's successful because he's phenomenal at what he does. But his trait that I see is no matter what he's given, no matter what he is told to do, he goes out and puts his all into it.
100%.
Putting Bobby Lashley over was a perfect example.
Puts his all
and people
into
like,
it.
Like, no, man, that's a guy that will always have his job. He'll always be making money.
Because people know, okay, listen, it doesn't matter. We could give him, hey, your job is to carry all of this stuff around everywhere you go. Okay. And he'll find an entertaining way to do it and be the best, best, whoever that he has to be.
Yeah.
To, you know what I mean? So it's like a lot of these things, whether they take you off TV or they take you off the road or they have you lose 80 matches in a row, everything is a test to see if they can break you, what your breaking point is, how far can they push you, do you stand up for yourself? Like everything is up in the air to see who it is they're working with, right? Because if they're going to entrust the future of their company to somebody, they need to be able to know what makes you tick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is the weight of the situation too much? Are the lights too bright? Will you fumble? All of those things are tests. So if you have something like that and they go, okay, hey, well, he didn't listen. He's going to fumble. If he can't handle this, there's no way he handles a Mania press tour.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of people just have to.
And those tests happen for years, even if after you're there, like not just getting in.
Those tests still happen now. Those tests happen to me daily.
Yeah.
Right. And there's situations that I come across and I'm gonna that I go, okay, I could react one way. That's not going to be the best course of action for where I need to be. So let me change gears. Let me go through things through the proper channels. Let me address my concerns and let me figure out things the way they need to be done on this side of it. And most of the time that works. And if that doesn't work, I'll just go, okay, I'll just do it myself. But then don't come to me later going, well, why did you? No, because I gave you the chance to do that. You said no, or you were stalling, so I handled it. Right? Which to me shows initiative on everything. I don't have to wait for you. I'm not going to wait for you. I'm going to do what I feel is right and put my all into it, just like everybody should.
100%. Yeah.
Wow. And that kind of attitude and mentality is what's clearly pushed you to the success that you're having.
And clearly why you're continuing to climb the ladder.
Exactly.
That's right.
A role model for others, really.
Yeah.
I avoid that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No. Excuse me, and I can't talk. Sorry. It's because with that comes an expectation that you're infallible, right?
I see what you mean.
And that's not something that I am.
Right.
People know where I'm from. I have my demons. I have my vices, just like everybody else. A lot of people agree with the things that I say on certain issues, right? So we galvanize on that point. T.I. made a great point that says, I am not a role model, I am a real model.
Oh, I like that.
To go, I'm going to show you what is possible, but do not think like I'm no different than you are. I am just like you.
Yeah.
Right.
I just happen to be in this lane. So don't expect, to never be disappointed. Don't expect to never, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to disagree. I'm going to think differently. We're not always going to be right here. Right. But as long as you can understand my intention for everything and where I'm trying to go, then we'll be good.
That makes a lot of sense. I really like the way you said that.
Yeah, so the accolade, we spent a lot of time here talking about a lot of different things, but accolades was the name of the game. So started out there, made a huge impression. You're off of the strength of the way you look. I remember that match, and it brought the house down. I think maybe Dirty Andy Dalton was one of the guys you fought, and someone else. And then you found yourself signed by ROH, but you found yourself signed by ROH, but your partner that made that huge first impression was no longer a part of the equation.
Right.
What was that like?
It was awkward, but there was still like this calmness, right? Because me and Keith had talked. He explained to me some of his issues, some of the thoughts that he had dealing with every situation that he had, right? And for me, because he was already kind of under that umbrella for a while, so for me, I flat out told him, I was just like, hey man, look, it's my job to be a star with you here or without you here, right? So you have to do what's best for you and your family. You make that choice regardless. I shouldn't be a factor in that equation. That is your choice to make for your family, right? I'm never going to be like, well, what about that's right, you got to make that choice, right? If I was in that spot, I would make that choice, right? So it's my job to uphold myself whether you're here or whether you're not. right? And talking to Kevin Kelly again, you know what I mean? He was like, when he talked to me, he made it very clear. He was like, look, I know things are up in the air, but I want you to know that this is your deal. And it's not your deal if he stays. No, this is just your deal, right? That you don't have to worry about. You earn this and you're going to get this regardless of how this shakes out, right? So there was some nerves there, but overall it was calmness because it was like, he's got to do what he's got to do. They've already told me that, you know, I've earned this, right? And so now it's just on me to go out and do what I've been doing for years, and that's just proving myself, and I'll bet on me every single time.
Absolutely. And all right, so moving on from there, I remember, you know, from an office standpoint, because I was still working at ROH, I as well was nervous for you because I was like, you know, we kind of can't lock Keith down, but we got Shane. I was hoping, also not really being a fly on the wall, but they weren't going to pull that from you. Like, we only want the package. But it wasn't long before you did get signed that you found yourself in another faction with Kenny King, Rhett Titus, and Caprice Coleman, the Rebellion. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that where you saw the TV title reign? Was that with them, or did that come from?
That sprouted after that.
Okay.
But the Rebellion, and I will say to this day, like, you can see a lot of STP in what the Rebellion was trying to do, right? And I will say forever, the Rebellion was about 2-3 years before its time, right? It just missed, you know what I mean? Because if that would have hit in today's era,
oh gosh, yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it just missed the
militant,
just missed, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just like it was just one of those things that being with them, especially at that time where I was kind of just like, what do I do? Right? Rhett, Kenny, and Caprice were able to help me dodge a lot of those landmines that I didn't know that I was about to step on. Right?
Yeah.
So again, having the right people around you, being able to go, nah, not right there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like feeling a certain way. And me, I am a confrontational person in a good way though. Right? Like if we have an issue and we have to work, right? I'm not going to tiptoe around you for 6 months hoping that this never has to be a conversation. I'm going to go, hey, Larry, what's the deal? Right. You know what I mean? Like we're going to have this conversation because we have to be around each other for a long time. Yeah. We have to work. You know what I mean? So that's who I am. And some people are used to that. Some people aren't. You know what I mean? So that can come off as being aggressive if people aren't used to someone coming directly at them, right? So moments where I was like, let me go. They're like, you don't want to talk to him right now. Let's let you cool down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Come at this a different way, perspective. Come at like this, and I was able to go, okay, all right. And then they kind of taught me some of the finer points of the game, right? And a lot of those lessons I now carry into what I do with STP, having that same attitude, having that same unapologetic streak of knowing who we are, knowing what we represent, knowing who we do it for. And like I tell people all the time, you know, we're for everybody, right? We want everybody to be able to be a fan, to enjoy us, to go on this ride with us, enjoys the ups and the downs, but we aren't for everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe you have no problem with the message, you just don't like the messenger. That's fine. But we're going to keep delivering the same message.
Awesome. Topic of conversation
Yeah.
here. The TV title did happen after the
Yes, it
Rebellion. Was that a tournament?
No, that was War of the Worlds tour. We were in Toronto, I want to say May 2019. Four-way match with then champion Jeff Cobb, Brody King, and Hiroki Goto. Goto, who had beaten me previously in a singles, Cobb, who had beaten me on 2 occasions in a singles match, and once in Philly, and then at I want to say the Best in the World pay-per-view in Vegas, which was my very first singles match on pay-per-view. After like 4 or 5 years being with them.
Yeah, that was about 4 years later. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was funny because so we have the match with Cobb in Philly, and people think like the momentum started there, but actually it was the match that I had with Hangman Page prior to that. So I had a great match with Hangman Page. that carried me into the match with Cobb. And that day I told him, I was like, hey man, I have a chip on my shoulder today and I have a point to prove. So just so you know, that's what I'm coming into this with. And he was like, cool, let's do it. And yeah, he's like, that's all you need to say. You know what I'm saying? So that was what it was. And I had, you know, I spent like 6 weeks in the UK, had that buzz. So by the time contracts came around, there was buzz here, there was buzz internationally. Everything sort of came into place at the right time. And then that fostered into the TV title run, which a lot of people are saying that it was their favorite run, you know, in history, other than Jay Lethal's, which is high praise. And to be one of only 3 African Americans to ever win the championship in the 20-year history of the company, that means the world to me. And I knew once I won, something clicked in me immediately, because I looked back and in that venue, and you couldn't see them because they were farther in the back, but there was a group of black fans there, probably like 20, right? And while everybody throughout was either cheering or booing or kind of like in shock, like, oh, I can't believe you won, they were absolutely losing their minds. And I mean, like, you would have thought Prince walked on stage. They were crying, people were holding up, and I knew right then, okay, this is bigger than me. This run needs to be something that people can hold on to, right? And after that ended, it was like, okay, what's the next thing, right? That next mountain is achieving that thing that only one other person has in the 20-year history of ROH, and that's the Ring of Honor World Title. So for me, everything that I've done now, everything that I'm gearing up for, helping my guys along, all of that is getting me in a position to capture the top prize, not only in ROH, but what should be the top prize in all of pro wrestling, which is the Ring of Honor World Title, and give Jay Lethal some company on top of that mountain.
Well, I can tell you, I can't wait for that day. I was in the Terminal 5 when Jay Lethal took the world championship from Jay Briscoe at that Best in the World, I think it was. And there weren't 20 African American fans or color fans together, but there were pockets around the place, and that same impact was had on them. And I just thank my lucky stars that can happen in this day and age, and also in your accolades that you've achieved. And I have no doubts that one day we'll be hearing the great Bobby Cruz announce your winner and new. And I just hope to be somewhere in the building like I was when Jay was there, Jay was winning, to be there for that moment.
It's gonna be awesome.
Indeed.
I was close, and then Kenny, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
we'll come back to that. Right.
All right. Well, 6-man tag team champion, TV champion. Got aspirations to get that big belt. Dan, what were you going to go into?
I was just going to say thanks so much again for coming in.
It's been a great conversation.
And it was a great conversation, and again for being a mentor to our kids.
Absolutely.
You know, Con and Moses.
They make it easy, man.
To help them.
They make it easy.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
That's right. Well, for our guest, the leader of STP Promotions, the baddest man of all time, Shane Taylor, Dan McDevitt, and the heart of MCW, Tara, I'm Larry Legend. We'll see you next Tuesday for another exciting edition of the MCW Cast.